I've already done a full rundown of the Blackmagic A10 Mini, but what are some of the tips and tricks that I picked up after using it for over a month? Well, in this video, I'm giving you 5 of them. So tip number 1, the ATEM restore function, a way of saving out your settings so that when you pull the power out of your A10 Mini, you can get them back the next time. So one of the questions that I have seen the most, especially in the comments of my last video, is there a way of saving profiles or saving out your settings? I didn't show that in my last video, and if you haven't watched that yet, it's a full guide of how to set up the Blackmagic A10 Mini. I'll put it on the little YouTube cards at the top. Just click on the I button if you want to watch it. But yes, there is a way to save your settings and save out all of your settings, and basically, if you want to, create different profiles so that when you come to plug in the A10 Mini again, you can just select the one you want and restore it straight to the device. And I'm going to show you firstly how to save that, and then secondly how to restore. So let's say if we go into my software control panel we've got here, I've been changing, put myself up so you can see me, I've been changing some of the settings this morning, playing around with chroma keys and things like that. And let's say, for argument's sake, that I've got my A10 Mini exactly how I want it. And I want to save out all those settings. It's super simple to do so. All you would do is go up at the top, click File, and then click Save As. Now this is going to create an XML file with all of your A10 Mini settings as they are right now. So let's just say this is I've done one for the morning setup, so let's say this is the afternoon setup. You see what I mean by you can start to create different sort of profiles. So let's say you're using this for interview's sake, and you want to do a setup for a 3-person shoot and a setup for a 2-person shoot, and they have different settings for both. You could save out each of these setups and then easily, very quickly restore the one you need when you need it. So we've hit save on there. We then get this dialog box that asks us what we want to save. You know, what settings do we actually want to put in this file? Now, my advice is to just leave everything selected, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But if you want to, you can say, you know, I just want to save the audio mixer settings and things like that. But for now, my advice is always save everything, because you can choose what you want to restore later. Hit save, and down at the bottom here, you'll see it says save complete. The file is generated. I've saved it to my desktop. So if I bring that up, we can see it there. We've got afternoon set up. Now it is an XML file, so if you're into editing those files, you can just open them up in any sort of text edit editor and edit those to your heart's content. You need some knowledge of kind of the way it's phrased, but it's pretty simple once you start looking through. So that's how to save it. But how do you get that saved settings back on your device when you pull out the power? Now I can't pull out the power right now because I'm recording this setup through the A10 Mini itself, but what you would do is you would boot up your A10 Mini, go to File, let's make sure we're in the software control first, go to File, Restore, and then you would select that restore file that you've generated and just hit Restore. Now this is the point that I was making. I always say save all your settings, because then when it comes to restoring, you actually have the choice whether you want to restore everything or just select things. So let's say, you know, I did just want to take the audio levels from the shoot I did last week, but maybe since booting up I've done a different color grade and I want to keep that. Well, I could just select audio mixer, and that's just going to change and replace the audio mixer settings from that restore file, and it won't do anything else to your A10 Mini. But again, for argument's sake, I want to actually restore everything, have the A10 Mini go into the exact state that it was when I saved that file. So all I do is select all and then click Restore. And there we go. You can see at the bottom here it says Restore Complete. That's when you know you're back to the settings from the restore file. And that's it. It really couldn't be simpler. That is how you save out different versions of your A10 Mini, and then when it comes to the time, you can easily restore them so that you've got all your settings ready to use as they were in that instance. Now, one of my biggest concerns when I received the Blackmagic A10 Mini was how am I going to monitor audio, because there's no headphone jack in the device itself. And I really kind of thought about this, and I found 2 ways so far, and I want to share those with you. The first one is for an instance where you are just using like a laptop, and this works for both Mac and PC. And it's because of the USB, or what they call, Blackmagic called the webcam output. because it's outputting the program with audio, you can use your computer to monitor that audio. Now I'm using a Mac, it does work on PC, and let me show you how I am doing it on the Mac here. So if we switch over to the desktop, what I do is I fire up QuickTime, and I open up here, new audio recording. Now you could do new movie recording if you wanted to, and that would show you the video as well, but I don't need that, I just want to monitor the audio. Select Blackmagic Design, or it might come up as A10 Mini for you, depending on what you have your device called as. And then you can turn up, I'm just going to mute it because I don't want it to come back, but you would turn up this slider here, and that's going to output the audio coming from your A10 Mini through your headphone jack or through your computer speakers. So it's a really useful way of monitoring audio that is coming directly into your A10 Mini without having a headphone jack on the device. The other way that I use a lot, and a lot more, because when I'm using the A10 Mini, I'm also using a Blackmagic Video Assist, which is a monitor. It's actually right here. Hold on, I can show you with the GoPro. So this is the setup that we've got right here. You can see I'm using a Blackmagic Video Assist to just see and actually record the output of the A10 Mini as well. And the great thing about that is the Video Assist has a headphone output on it. So I can just grab, I've got some headphones down here. So I can just grab my headphones, and I do this a lot when I just want to check the levels, make sure everything is sounding good. Again, if I'm using like the EQ or anything like that, I'll plug directly into the headphone output of the Blackmagic Video Assist, go directly into, I mean, I don't know why I'm doing this, you guys won't be able to hear it, but just to confirm. And yeah, I can now hear myself back, there's no delay, I can hear the audio that is coming out of the A10 Mini. So you can either monitor the audio through a third-party program via that USB output, or from the HDMI output using a third-party monitor that has a headphone output on. Either one will allow you to monitor the audio, and it's just a great workaround that I've found for being able to check your audio levels and see how things are sounding, or hear how things are sounding without having a dedicated headphone output on the A10 Mini itself. So what this allows you to do is effectively take a still screenshot, as it were, of your program output at any point. So let me show you how it works. We fire into the software control, and if we go over to capture, you'll see there's an option here called capture still. Now, if I smile and click this, now if we go over to the media pool, you'll see I have a still called Capture 2, and it's already loaded in the media player. And what that means is, if I cut over here to the A10 for a second, if I cut the still on air, you can see there's me smiling. It is that still shot on air there. I'm sure there's a bunch of different use cases for this. I can see it being used maybe in something like a photo finish, or in demonstration purposes to kind of freeze frame something and prepare something else. But it's a really cool, neat little feature, and I'm sure people, as they come to use it more and more, will find different use cases for it. But I wanted to share it. It's something that I kind of found new in the ATEM software control and didn't really know was there. But it's a cool little tip for, especially if you want to just grab a still for maybe like an end frame for your live stream. It's a great idea. Tip number 4, if you haven't been able to work it out already, is chroma keying and the picture-in-picture mode. Okay, so I have a nice green screen behind me here now, and I want to show you the advanced chroma keyer built into the A10 Mini. It's the same advanced chroma keyer that is in the top of the range A10s that Blackmagic have, and some of the powerful features that are actually built inside within that. And I know a lot of people have also asked, like, can you use the picture-in-picture at the same time as using the chroma keyer? I'm going to answer that question and kind of show you maybe a way around it as such. So let's dive into the software control first. Now I'm going to keep my picture-in-picture off right now because we are using upstream keyer 1 for the chroma key. So click on upstream key 1 and then go over and click on chroma. Now if I put the chroma key on air right now, this is what it's seeing. It's obviously not pulling a great key of the green. It's pulling more of the blacks right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn that off, and I'm going to use my preview screen that I've got here. Now I know you can't see that, but firstly, you want to select a camera that you want for the fill source, so that is the correct camera. Then I'm going to click here and use Chroma Sample. And I'm just going to drag this, and I can see on my preview screen, to the green area behind me. Click that. Now if I bring that on screen, you can see it's pulling a much better key. Still not perfect around the kind of glasses area. We'll sort that in a second, but it's certainly better than what we had. Now for kind of argument's sake here, I'm just going to change one of the settings so that I can keep something on screen at this. I'll keep this on screen at the same time while I make adjustments so you can see it. So let's turn on flying key, and that will just shrink down. There we go. So you can see while I make adjustments. So I think the first thing that we're going to want to do is I want to apply a mask to the key. So I want to trim a little bit off the top, just to the point. There we go. And quick tip, if you want to change these levels, there's like one of these granular sliders so that you can make very slight movements. Just highlight your mouse over the word. So you can see here I've got top or bottom. Highlight, click, and drag. And then you can make those sort of granular movements. Now for big movements, I just like to jump in from the and type the actual number. So I reckon we're probably around like a -8 here. Now what I want to do with this shot is place me in the bottom left-hand corner so that you can see me and you can see the software control panel at the same time. Now, if I turn off that flying key, you'll see that's the full screen keyer. But the key to this is actually the flying key. What that allows you to do is place the key on screen wherever you want. But more importantly, Blackmagic have built into this keyframe so that you can set keyframe A and then keyframe B and animate between them, and also have your chroma keyer kind of animate off the screen as well. So what I'm going to do is for shot A, I'm just going to move the position of it on the left-hand side. I'm doing this really rough. And somewhere about there. And the same, I reckon I actually want to make that slightly bigger. So let's push that to about there and maybe just adjust it again. There and there. Now, let's say I'm happy with that. Click keyframe set A, and that will lock that down. We're also going to do a smaller version if I need to show you something in the bottom left-hand corner. So we can shrink that right down to maybe like that sort of size, just so I'm still here, but not really in the way of anything. And then I'll set that to keyframe B. Now, one thing that I noticed is the key isn't perfect, so we're going to go back and fix that a little bit, but I'm doing it really rough for now. But let me show you, now that we've set those two keyframes A and B, we can animate between them. So if we know that keyframe A is the larger version, I can click that and bam, I'll scale up. If I need to scale back down, I can click under the Run To section, B, and I scale back down. There is also the option as well to bring that key full screen. And while we're there, let's just adjust that chroma key a little bit. So if we go up here to the key adjustments, let's just have a look. We bring the background. I'm losing a bit too much of the chair there, but I can bring that back. So let's say that's okay for the background. If I just key out, that's probably okay for the foreground. I'm going to bring the background down a little bit, and let's try and adjust that there with the edge suppression. That's about okay. I'm happy with that key, especially as it's full screen and it's not going to be full screen. You also have the option, of course, to change the chroma correction as well. So you've got spill and flare suppression within those settings too. But if I come back down to the flying key, let's go back to our larger version of me. So you can see there, it's a really great tool to be able to kind of dip in and out. If I want to be large on screen, I've got that, and then I can shrink down. So if I want to show you something in the bottom left, you can still see it. For gamers and gaming, this is going to be a killer feature. The other options that you have down here, if I just bring myself larger again, how to animate it on and off the screen. So we can say shrink to the top left-hand corner, and there we go, it goes off. Bring it back by clicking which keyframe we want to go to. So there's A again. And if we want it to shrink to the middle, we click that. There's loads of different options. I'll just bring it back so you can see me. There we go. There's loads of different options to have your key source animate on and off the screen as well. Now, when you pair this feature with the next tip and the final tip, which is macros, you can create something really powerful for your live streams. Oh, one more thing before we move on to macros. The question, can you use the picture-in-picture at the same time as using the chroma keyer? The short answer is no. I kind of just showed you a way that you can have the same effect, but let me show you what happens when you try and do it. So I'm just going to cut to the screen here. In fact, I'll cut to the shot of the A10 Mini. And if I try and bring on the picture-in-picture here, works perfectly fine. Now look what happens when I try and then use the chroma keyer at the same time. If I click on for the chroma keyer, both will flash at the same time to let me know that the upstream key is already being used for the picture-in-picture. So that's what happens. Just thought I'd throw that in there. But let's talk about macros and how you can use macros to really elevate and automate your broadcast. All right, I got rid of the green screen. Let's talk macros, because they are probably my favorite thing in the A10 range. It's not just in the A10 Mini, it's across all of Blackmagic's A10 products. But they're so powerful, and what they allow you to do is, in effect, automate some of the processes that might take 10, 20 button presses for you to do, and you can change that into all in one button press. So let me dive into the software, and we're gonna actually create a macro right now for starting a show. And what I want that macro to do is I want it to automatically transition from a holding slate that we've got on the program to then putting our first camera, which will be this one here, onto the program. At the same time, I want it to fade up the microphones. And at the same time as that, 2 seconds after that's happened, I basically want it to then put a bug of a website that we're live streaming on to advertise. So that's what I want it to do. That would usually take multiple button presses and also multiple kind of brain functions to remember to have to do everything at the same time. But we're going to try and get it all down into one macro for one button press. Now, when you create a macro, what happens is the A10 Mini will basically record your every button press, setting change, every movement you make on the device until you tell it to stop. And then when it comes to recording a macro, it basically just plays those back. So what we do is we go into the macros menu and we hit the plus button here and we say start show, because that's what we want to call our macro. And as soon as I hit record, the A10 Mini is recording every single movement that we make on the device. So the first thing that we wanted it to do was to transition from the holding slate to our camera. And for that, I basically just want it to switch what is in preview and program. So I can click auto and it will mix between them. And it's recorded that action. Now at the same time, I wanted it to enable audio. So if I go to the audio tab, now I'm using Cam 1's input right now for this tutorial, so I don't want to mess around with that. So for argument's sake, I'm going to say that our main audio is coming in on camera 3. So we want that to be turned on when we run the macro as well. If we go back to switcher, and then finally what we said we wanted it to do is to bring on the website bug about 2 seconds later. And that's where this add pause option comes in handy, because we can set a delay until the next action in the macro is run. And it gives you a default. I'm going to set the duration to 2 here. You can also say wait until the user presses a button and then carry on running the macro. But let's add the pause. Now what we want it to do is to bring on our website. And as you can see, if we go to the media tab, what's in the media pool is still the holding slate. So we need to replace that with what's in slot number 2, which is the website. And then we want to bring that on air. So what we're going to use is a DSK for that. And make sure all our settings are correct. It's using the right media player. And then we just hit auto. And you can see on your screen that transitions on as well. And that's our macro run. So we can just hit stop and it will save there. Now, if we go back and turn off the audio, because we don't want that, and we turn off the DSK and we put back the holding slate into where it's meant to be, let's run the show as if we were starting it for real. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set our media player 1 on preview, because that's our holding slate. And let's now put that to program. And I'll count down to when I hit the start show button, and it should transition onto this page, enable fake audio, but it should also 2 seconds later bring on our website at the top. So let's quickly cut. There's our holding slate, and I'm going to hit the Start Show button in 3, 2, 1. There's the transition. Audio's enabled, and there is the DSK on with the website as well. So you can see it worked, and we can go in and actually check the audio's been enabled there too. So it's done everything we want. And that is how, you know what, let's remove that DSK because we don't need that website there. But that is how a macro can be so powerful. That's just a quick one I've shown you, throwing a few steps together in one button press for starting a show, transitioning, bringing up the audio, and bringing on the DSK for a website bug as well. But you can build extremely complex ones that work with all ranges of the ATEM Mini. So all ranges of the ATEM line. So if you have a higher version of like the 4ME, for example, that has SuperSource, you can start to create macros that place boxes or move boxes in different locations. So it's a really powerful tool, the macros that are built in, but the fact that Blackmagic have also enabled it on the ATEM Mini means that you can do some very complex stuff in something of such a small size. So those are my 5 kind of top tips and I guess tricks that I've found of the ATEM Mini so far. Some really useful ones in there, I hope you'll agree. If you want to know more, let me know in the comments below if you've been using the ATEM Mini, because by the time you watch this, I think it will start shipping. So if you've got yours yet, let me know in the comments. Have you found any sort of tricks and tips as well? Any other questions? Because in my last video, I had a bunch of questions from you guys about, can it do this? Can it work with X? I'm taking a look at all of those and we'll be answering those in my next video on the ATEM Mini. I plan to do kind of like a showing you how I use it out in the wild. I've been using it on quite a few different locations and for quite a few different shoots, and I'm going to do a behind the scenes video of the setups and the things like that I'm using this ATEM Mini for. So I can definitely answer some of your questions in there. So if you have any questions, I always try and get back to them in the comments, but if I don't, just know that I might use them in my next video and answer them then as well. So if you've enjoyed this one and found it useful, please do give it a thumbs up. That really helps with the algorithms. Drop a comment, and also more importantly, if you want more on the ATEM Mini, hit the subscribe button because there are more videos to come. Thanks for watching, guys.